Fran Barron, and I would like to welcome you to Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, Omega Eta Omega Chapters, #CAP College Application Workshop. The Kappa Phi Lambda chapter of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated has partnered with our chapter to facilitate this workshop. The presenter is Anthony Bond. During the presentation, please mute your devices. If you have questions, please type them in chat and the host will give them to the presenters. The presenter this presentation will be videotaped. If you do not wish to be seen, please turn off your camera. Now, let's learn about college applications.
All righty. All right, hopefully everybody's doing pretty well. My name is Anthony Bond. I'll be your presenter today. So basically, what we're going to talk about is the college application process and what the college application actually looks like. So what that application actually looks like. I mean, there's a lot of different types. And this year, the college application is really, really important because some schools are waiving the testing requirements. Now, that might sound good in the beginning. However, when they waive the test requirements, what that does is that makes every other part of the process more important than it previously was. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to go over a couple different things about this process. Now, ladies, okay, there's a screen share. All right, so I'm going to share my screen, and we're just going to kind of sit back and talk about some things because that's the key. Knowing ahead of time, knowing what you have to do, that's the thing that kind of makes everything a little less stressful. All right, so give me a second to present, and we're going to get started. All righty. Can everybody see everything okay? Just double checking. Move this over a little bit. All right, so college application process. Ladies, is the screen good? Okay, all right, just double checking. All right, so there are two types of application decisions, two types. Now, the first type is the regular decision. Now, this is normally you apply at the regular deadline and they'll get to you by they'll decide for you by May 1st. Now, this says non-binding. Now, just in case you're wondering exactly what that means, is that some colleges, because they have such a high rate of people wanting to go to the school, they have binding acceptance rates. So that means that if you accept and you accept at a binding school, they're holding your place. Now, you might wonder, well, what if there's an emergency? What if I can't go? Well, sometimes what that does is sometimes they'll actually keep your name. And when you apply to other colleges, they'll see that you broke a commitment. So you might think it's not that serious, but it is. Because you got to remember with colleges, what they're trying to do is they have to make sure they have enough dorm space. They have to make sure they have enough space for classes. They just have to make sure that spacing is everything. So some of them are binding and some are non-binding. So a regular decision, you apply by the regular deadline. Non-binding code is usually May 1st. Now, rolling admission. All right, these applications are reviewed and a decision is rendered as soon as possible after the application is submitted. This, again, is also non-binding. May also decide by May 1st. So a lot of the regular and rolling decision colleges, they kind of accept applications throughout the year. Now, of course, you're still going to have to start by semester, but they take applications throughout the year. And so those are some of the ones that, the rolling admission, those colleges are always taking people. A lot of times, the more exclusive colleges, they're going to be the ones that have a strict, hard deadline where they cut off and there's nothing that you can do to get involved in the school. There's two more types. Let me see what we got. Here we go. You got early action. All right. So early action, you apply early, usually in December. Again, this is non-binding. You have to decide by May 1st. And the last one is the one that we kind of spoke about earlier. And this is early action. So early decision. So early action is applying early, receiving a decision early, usually in December. It's non-binding. Early decision is different. This type, you apply early to one of your first choice colleges and you receive a decision early, usually in December. If accepted, this contract is binding and all other applications must be rescinded. So some colleges, when you get that acceptance, they're looking for you to come there. College is a business. It's a big business. So if you had a customer, you want to know that you can count on that customer coming the next year because you're saving a space for that customer. So you got to make sure that you know if you're really going to go to that school. Because what some schools can do is they can hold you liable at that school that you kind of tried to break a non-binding agreement. So you got to be careful. So you got 4 types. I just want to jump back real quick. So you have 4 types. You got regular decision, apply by regular deadline, non-binding by May 1st. You have rolling admission. Applications are reviewed and a decision is rendered as soon as possible after the application is submitted. And then you have early action, apply early, receive a decision early, usually in December. And then you have early decision. Remember, that's the key. That's why it's in big bold letters. The contract is non-binding. Contract is non-binding. And oftentimes, this non-binding is because they've also given you some financial aid. Because a lot of times the financial aid that you'll get, that'll be based off of you coming there. Because when they give you a financial aid package, they're withholding money from someone else. And so that's why, they really need to know if you're going to come to the school or not. So college application usually has kind of like different parts. We're going to break down the anatomy of a college application. I didn't say Grey's Anatomy. I said the anatomy of a workshop. All right. So first part is your personal information. All right. So you got name, you got email address, you got phone number, you got school information, test scores, and citizenship information. This is really important because these days, citizenship can go a long ways. All right. Sorry, can you close the refrigerator? Sorry, my son is in the refrigerator. That's another thing you're gonna learn when you get to college. Your parents aren't there to buy you food. That's just a little nugget for you. All right, so name. Make sure that your name is spelled properly. Believe it or not, I've seen applications where people misspell their own name. Spell check is really, really important. Email address. I always like to talk to students here because I know that everybody likes to have that fancy email address, special sauce 101, all kinds of cool things that I can't think of because I'm 44 years old. But you got to have what we call a business email address. You want to have an email address that's usually your first and last name, and it's a basic email address because when you send these out to the world, you don't want them judging you. Now, you can still keep your fun email address that you use with your friends, but when you make a resume, when you apply to colleges, you want a basic email address. Don't make it too difficult that it can be mistyped. I know sometimes we try to change them up to make them, less difficult for people to kind of like duplicate, but you gotta try to be careful. You gotta remember, anything, the harder that you make your college application, the more likely the person that's looking at it is going to bypass your application. Admissions office, those people are kind of like, I wouldn't say they're low on the totem pole, but they're getting boxes of applications that they have to kind of go through. Sometimes they're moving pretty quickly. You have to make sure that your application has everything that they need so that it'll be an easy observation. When I get your application, I usually have a checklist. I'm looking for this, check this, check that, check this. Phone number, make sure that you have a phone number that's working. If you are filling out college applications, you may not, want to get a new phone number if you can control it. School information. Make sure you have your school's information, your school's address, your school's phone number, because they do check on you. Don't just think you can submit something. I don't really go to Harvard, but I'm gonna write this address down. They do check on you, particularly at the schools that have a very, very competitive acceptance rate. I mean, there's a lot of schools now, like College Park is very, very difficult to get into. I've had students that had very high GPAs and they did not get in because certain schools that are in state and out of state, they might love that you're from Maryland. However, the out of state tuition, they can make more money. So college is a monetary thing. So sometimes what some schools are doing is they're taking in more out of state students because they can charge them more. Test scores and citizenship information. So try to have all of this stuff readily available. What I suggest is that when you get your test scores, scan it into your computer or scan it in or email it to yourself. So that way, if you ever lose the actual paper document, you have a copy of it scanned in. So scan all of that in so that you'll always have it. Extracurriculars. All right, hobbies. Colleges have a lot of different majors. They have a lot of different things that you can do. Hobbies are one thing that kind of show a lot about you. If you're a person that has different particular hobbies, what all of that is doing is all of that is showing that you have time management skills. That shows that you are responsible. Whenever I'm talking to students about hobbies, I always tell them, if you have a hobby, try to make it official. If you and your friends play video games, maybe try to make it a club that you can put down that you are the founder of. They're looking for responsible students that have, started things, students that have been in clubs, students that have been in charge in clubs. So if you're in a school activity, like I know I've worked at schools that have had like chess clubs, video game clubs, try to get some actual offices so that you can be in the executive role of that club. Those are things that you want to put down. Having a part-time job, that's something that again makes you look responsible. If I have a student that has high grades and they've held a part-time job for 2 years, that tells me a lot. That tells me, number one, that you're responsible. That tells me that you're trustworthy. That tells me that you have really good time management skills, that you've been able to do all these things and maintain this job. And it just tells me a lot about you. Colleges are looking for more than just robots with grades. High grades work, but they're looking for a well-rounded person. Sports is again, this shows responsibility because you can't be on a sports team, number one, if you don't follow rules. Number two, if you don't, meet certain deadlines, if you don't meet expectations, if you don't meet timelines, if you don't show up to things on time, all those things play a role in you being on a sports team. So as a person that's looking at a college application, that tells me a lot. Because you not only were responsible enough to keep your grades really high, but you were on a sports team. Now, you might say, well, what if I'm not the star, Mr. Bond? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. If you've ever been on a team, there's no I in team. You came to practice every week. You did what you were supposed to do. You didn't get kicked off the team. So you showed a lot of responsibility to be on that team. So just, all of that stuff factors in. All of that stuff is really, really important. This is a big one here that a lot of people don't realize, they don't think about, but community service is an amazing game changer. I had a student at Long Reach when I used to teach at Long Reach High School, and she was really big into theater arts. That was her thing. When any school, when Long Reach was used at all for anything theater arts related, she showed up. She volunteered her time. So if it was outside organization, she came. She got involved with Toby's Dinner Theater, and she would go over and she would volunteer. Now, notice what I'm saying, volunteer, VB. You don't have to, I know we all like to get paid, but you got to remember community service is like an investment. You're not going to always get paid for doing community service. So sometimes if it's your passion, you may have to start off as a volunteer first, maybe unpaid volunteer, but guess what? You're all about investing in your future. Community service is an amazing way to show that you are tied into the community, to show that you have, empathy, to show that you have some cultural sensitivity. Try to be active everywhere. Doesn't matter what the event is. And community service is also another one that you can kind of control. If you decide you're going to rake leaves for your elderly neighbors, that's fine. But guess what? You need to write up kind of like a template. I rake leaves for Mrs. Such and Such on this day, and have that person sign and put their phone number on it. Because what that does is that makes it official. I really did these things. Because everybody can lie on a college application and say, oh, I take the whole street's trash out. I do all these things. But if you don't have any documentation, you're taking a risk, because if they ever ask for proof and you haven't done those things, then now, you look dishonest. And academic honesty is very, very important in college. That's one of the number one things that people get kicked out of college for. And guess what? If you get kicked out in a semester, they keep your money. You don't get a refund back. So not only do you owe people, but they're going to kick you out. So academic dishonesty is really important, but just honesty, period. Most of your colleges have an honor code, and they're looking for things like that. I mean, you can, sure, a lot of y'all are probably doing service. You're probably volunteering at your church. You're probably helping your neighbors. You're probably, doing a lot of things that you can write down. You can, shovel the snow for elderly people. You can give canned goods. When you give canned goods, excuse me, hold on one second, because my son is still in the kitchen. Like, can you get out of the kitchen for me? Because you're like a little rat going into stuff and this background noise. All right, I'm gonna need him to get his college application together fast, because he eat me out of house and home. Yeah, get out of the kitchen. All right. We need you all to go to college so you all can go to the college cafeteria, because my bill for food is like really, really high, because I have 2 sons and they eat a lot. But they're growing boys, so I understand. So community service is important. Find something to do. All you have to do is, the internet's your friend. Google. During this time, with November coming, there's food drives all over the place, all over the county, all over, the city. Around Thanksgiving time, they're always looking for volunteers at different churches to give food out, to pass out food, to help serve. All those things you can do, but you got to make sure that you document all of them. Got to make sure that you document all of them. Documentation is the key. I mean, if you take a look at this quote here from a gentleman at William Patterson University, that William Patterson University, their students must complete a civic engagement requirement. And basically, it's a volunteer community service task tied to the students' academics. To bring that entire concept full circle, I look for students who engage in high school. It tells me that they are more likely to engage upon enrollment, which is important to your community. You can start as early as possible. You don't have to be in 12th grade to start community service. You don't have to be in 12th grade. You can start at an early age. If you have younger siblings, you can bring them along with you. Just have everything documented, written down, because that tells me a lot about you. It tells you, number one, it tells me your personal traits. Well, that should be personality traits, because not everyone's going to get up. Most community service happens early in the morning. So the fact that you're going to get up, go somewhere early in the morning for free to help somebody else, that tells me a lot about you. Time management. If you're able to do community service and still have your grades really, really high, that tells me that you have excellent time management skills. Also tells me that you have the ability to multitask. Tells me that you are a very well-rounded student, individual, adult. Those are all things that they're looking for. All things that they're looking for. Summer activities. Summer is time to work when you're in high school. Summer is where you build your resume. Summer is where you, of course, you have some fun, because you can't have all work and no play. But summer is where you build your resume. Summer jobs. Explain your summer jobs and be sure to highlight responsibilities. Whenever you fill out your college application, you always want to make sure you list all the things that you were in charge of on that job. Because what am I looking at? If you took the trash out at McDonald's, guess what? You still were a part of a team. Teamwork is really, really important. I was a part of a team. I was able to work in a role. I was able to work in a position. Having a job, I had to come on time. Having a job, I had to follow some type of rules. All of those things show me a lot. Internships. Internships out there, particularly unpaid. There's that dirty word again. I know I always walk around saying I'm not doing anything for free. I'm actually lying, because the internship, this is how you go about getting seen. If you're interested in a certain position, certain environment, you want to work in a certain office, most people are not going to turn down unpaid help. They're not. So most people can use help on their jobs, and if they can allow you to do some of their work, they're going to say yes. Those things are really, really important. Find something to do. Try to stick with something that you might be interested in, because what the internship can show you a lot of different things. It might show you that job is not actually the job that you want. So that's one thing it can show you, because you can actually get some real world experience in that internship. You might be able to find paid internships. They're all over the internet. I know that one place that does a lot of internships is I know the NIH has some, National Institute of Health. There's another organization, I think it might be NASA. NASA has some internship programs that they offer in the summertime. Now they fill up really quickly. So, check those things out. In the summertime, check out some enrichment activities. If you live in Howard County, the Howard County Library comes out, the Howard County Library catalog usually comes out really early, maybe like March or April. And what they do is they have workshops inside of the Howard County catalog that run through the Howard County Public Library. And the interesting thing about these workshops is, I learned something when I started enrolling my son in those workshops. I enrolled him for robotics, and I think it might have been $10. $10 is nothing. You spend more than that when you go to Chipotle and all these other places. But when I got there, first thing that I noticed is they were the only children of color, and every other student was Asian. Sometimes with different populations, we don't know where the activities are. Sometimes, some cultural groups kind of are more connected to education, and they know where the activities are. So, you check that out. The Howard County Public Library. I don't think I saw anything that was higher than $20. They had basic stuff such as typing, such as computer skills, such as creating a YouTube blog. They had rocketry. They had cooking classes. They had all these different things. All these things on your resume can make you look like a more rounded college student. Honors. This is a big one. Save every single certificate that you get. At my school, I'm in charge of the National Honor Society. And guess what? One day, I had a student come in and she submitted her packet, and her packet looked like a book. She had every single award that she had gotten since kindergarten. And you might say, okay, well, who wants to see that this person could color in the lines? But listen, the committee had never been so impressed as they were with that student. Number one, just the fact that you had the award from 10 plus years ago and that it was still in pretty good condition, but everything was organized. I want to say it might have been even organized by date. No matter what type of award that you get, if you get an award for outside activities, if you get an award at church, if you get an award through, any other kind of various program, document all of those things. And I say, again, the rewards, if you can, scan them into the computer. So that way they'll never get lost and you'll always be able to kind of keep up with them. Rewards show a lot. It shows me that again, you are a person that is motivated. You're a person that's been recognized as a leader. I try to keep some of my kids' awards, but they always seem to fall off the refrigerator and somehow get wet. So I don't even know. Don't ask how that happens. That's because my sons go in the refrigerator a lot, a lot. I'm sure. Do we have anybody else out there that drinks a gallon of apple juice in a day? Well, that might just be a special skill that they have. I'm not sure. All right, so save your awards, scan them in if you can. What I suggest is maybe get a binder, and get some plastic pocket protectors and just drop the award into the binder. Try not to put holes in them because a lot of times this paper is really, really delicate. So just drop them into the plastic protector and save them. And you need to submit all of those things with your college application, because you gotta remember, you're trying to do everything you can to separate yourself from the other applicants. So athletics too. If you had a award for playing football, award for cheerleading, all of those things show me a lot about you. Save those things. It doesn't matter what the award is for. If it's for, student of the week, student of the month, if it's for, doing something well on the football team, doing something well as a cheer team, winning an award in your school club, save all of those things. Honor roll, of course, honor roll, that's the obvious one. You want to save all of that stuff. No honor is too big or small. Remember that. All right, test scores. Be sure to include all of your test scores, SAT or ACT. And one thing that a lot of people don't think about is the PSAT. This is really important because the PSAT, you can start taking that early, and you can actually it's not exactly the same test, but you can kind of see what you might score on. Now, some of these tests can actually be taken early. So if we have people here that have siblings that aren't even in high school, you have to pay a fee, but you can start taking the SAT first. When I first started teaching AP courses, that's one thing I noticed. I had ninth grade students that had already taken the SAT 3 and 4 times. Man, if you keep taking a test over and over again, they had been taking it since, I think, 7th or 8th grade. And so by the time they get to 10th grade or 11th, most people take it between 10th and 11th grade. You've taken it over and over again. Those are things that, you can do. Now, you might be wondering, Mr. Bond, what am I going to do with this? But you'd be surprised if you put your mind to it and maybe start to save your money, how many different opportunities that you can do. Now, these scores here, this year we have a slight reprieve because of COVID, and so many SAT and ACT tests were canceled, but don't get it twisted. That's probably, I'm going to say it's definitely $1 million business. It's not going away. You might just have a reprieve this year, so we don't want people to get relaxed and think the SAT is gone. It's not gone. It's $1 billion business. They're going to make you continue to take it, and you want to make sure that you get the highest score possible, and take it as many times as you can. A lot of the schools have SAT workshops. If you Google, you can find an SAT workshop. There's a lot of churches that give them. There's a lot of fraternities and sororities that give free SAT workshops. We've given a couple. The more that you see it, the more that you can be prepared, because that's one of the things that we don't really know about a lot of times because of that. All right. This is a big one here that a lot of people don't think about, and that's the teacher recommendation. Now, this is normally when I would say raise your hand if you have a go-to teacher right now, and normally there aren't that many hands up. Number one, teacher recommendations are really important because of course, they're going to see what you were going to say about yourself, but who's going to write something suspect about themselves on their college application? Teacher recommendations are really important. Number one, what you want to factor in is who are you going to select? Who are you going to select? What you might want to do is, touch base with your person early. I had people come back as early as 10th grade and ask me to be their recommender. Now they're in 10th grade. But what they do is they touch bases with me. They come back, they touch bases, they make sure I know them, Because remember, you can't ask me something 1 year and never interact with me for 3 whole years. So if you have somebody who you want to be your recommender, you got to make sure that you keep some kind of interaction with them. Because I got to make sure that I'm going to remember you by 12th grade when it's time to write your recommendation. This is a big one. Be sensitive to time restrictions. Try to give the teacher as much time as possible when you ask them for this recommendation. Try to don't run up to them and say, "Oh, I need this by the end of the week." Now that might work depending on the relationship that you have. But you gotta remember, as a person who's writing recommendations, I mean, this year alone, I might have written 50, and that's just the beginning because the first round was October 15th. The next big date was November 1st. And now my next big date I'm looking at is November 15th. I got another round of recommendations to write. December 1st, I got another round of recommendations to write. And then January 1st is another big deadline. So try to get to the person ahead of time. Be honest with yourself. Don't select anybody that you're not sure what they're gonna write. Believe it or not, you might say, Mr. Bond, nobody would really write something bad. I've been teaching for 22 years. This is my 23rd year teaching. And I do know adults that write bad stuff. You might say, well, why in the world would you say that you would do it? Because I can't even really answer that question. I've seen teachers write bad recommendations. And a lot of the recommendations, some of them you can see beforehand. But a lot of schools, you can't see what the teacher wrote. So you don't really know. So you want to try to make sure that you are certain that this person is going to give you something decent. If you know that you weren't on your best behavior in that class, that's something that you want to think about. That's why, you always have to be careful, because I've had students that we didn't have the best relationship, but I'm a type of person, I care about people going into school. So if they had the grades, I wrote it because my goal is I want you to go to school. I got a really nice letter from a young lady she was all over the place when I had her in 10th grade. But by 12th grade, she got herself together. I wrote her recommendation. She came to me because she kind of had a little attitude and she was having trouble finding teachers. So I wrote it. And then she sent me a nice card when she graduated from West Virginia University. And she talked about the fact that, a lot of people wouldn't write her recommendation. So you got to be careful what you do to the teachers, because you got to remember some of the teachers are waiting to come back and stick it to you. Be sure to let the teacher know where the request is going to come from. This is a big one here. Know what service your college uses. Naviance is the big one, but not all colleges use Naviance. You have CollegeNet, you have Hobson. I think there's another service, because what happens is normally when you make that recommendation, the email link is going to be sent to the teacher. And so as a teacher, I like to be able to know what's coming. So normally I'll put Naviance into my search bar to see what comes up. But you got to kind of, if you can give the teacher a heads up, hey, this might be coming from Hobson, it's easier to find. I know some of the more prestigious universities, some of them have their own service. So they don't use Naviance or CollegeNet or Hobson. They have their own company that does their recommendations. Some schools, some of the more exclusive schools actually come to you. I had a student last year who was going to Stanford, and Stanford sent a person to Maryland, and that person interviewed all of their teacher recommendations in person. That's the first time that ever happened to me, but that says a lot. That says a lot. Number one, you can't make up stuff if they're going to come in person, so you got to make sure. Next thing you want to know is important. When is it due? Is it early decision, which is typically November 1st? Is it regular decision? Make sure that you know what that is. When is your dates? November 1st, January 1st. I usually tell people to get to get something and write down the different topics. Sorry, not the different topics, the different dates that are there. The types of applications. All right, standard application is specific to each individual school. Be sure to know the method of submission that they want. Is it mail or is it online? Ways to influence admissions. There's a couple. I'm watching my time, ladies. I see it's 5:35. You know, I talk a lot. My wife tells me that all the time, but it's all good. All right. All right. Ways to influence your admissions. You know, you have college visits. You can go visit the school. College interview. Weekend seminars or workshops. If you're interested in going to a school and you see that they're having something free there, go. Oftentimes when they have different events at the school, different school officials are there. So if you stand up, ask a lot of questions, be impressive, they're going to wonder who is that student and why aren't they coming here? Social media interactions. You know, if you see your school having an online poll, jump on. There is somebody watching their social media account at all times. As a rule of thumb, the earlier you apply, the better. You know, keep informed on Naviance. Naviance does a lot of things. Naviance has scholarships and a lot of things on it. Meet with the college reps when they come to your school. Most colleges visit schools. Most colleges, usually there's a timeline in your guidance office that says the college is coming here. You know, those reps, that does a lot. If you can leave an impression. You know, what I tell my students, guess what? If you know that your college is coming on this date, have your resume in hand. Slide them your resume. Anything that you can do to make them remember you. Ask questions. If you need help, see your counselor, because that's what they do. All right. When you make your college visit, what you want to do is make an appointment, call the admissions office for an appointment 2 weeks beforehand, prepare yourself for the visit. What buildings am I going to hit? I need to find the admissions office. I need to find a financial aid office. Find the media center. Look at housing. You know, students and faculty offices. You know, the dining hall, different programs of interest. All those things are really, really important. If your college is big on interviews, you know, some colleges do interviews in person. You know, if the interview is possible, it's beneficial. Call the university office to schedule your interview at least 2 weeks ahead. If an interview is part of the admissions process, most out-of-state universities have alumni, and well, I think that's a little typo there. Most people have alumni there. Like there's a gentleman in my chapter, and he is the Maryland. Well, I know he works for Florida A&M University, and sometimes he interacts with people who want to go to Florida A&M University because he lives in Maryland. So oftentimes, if you're a Maryland candidate, you're interacting with him all the way here. So that's really important. All right, meet with college reps when they visit. Okay, we kind of talked about this. When they come to your school, make sure you meet with them. You know, students should have prior permission from their teacher to come. If students have a test and can't come to the meeting, have them stop by before the office. If you know the admissions officer is coming that day and you know that you have a test, you know, swing by. This is where having your resume in hand can kind of help you out. You know, oftentimes the first semester is when they do a lot of their visits. You don't see a lot of visits after January 1st. Because why? Because that's when the applications are coming in. That's when they're coming in. Think about the sticker price. Sticker price of education may not be the actual cost of attendance. One thing that a lot of people don't realize is that filling out your college application, most applications are sometimes between $50 to $75, maybe sometimes even $100. You know, if you're a person that is that gets free and reduced meals, you get several college applications free. That's one thing that I know that Howard County in particular definitely offers, is they offer free. I think you might get about five free college applications if you qualify for that program. But oftentimes there are some schools, if you go to their open house, they'll waive the fee if you're there that day. You know, oftentimes, like I had a gentleman come from Morgan State University to visit my classroom, and he gave out his card, and every single person who got that card got their application fee waived. I mean, what can you do with $50? Hopefully you took that extra money and spent it on your parents, because we work hard, but if you didn't, at least it's $50 more that you have in your pocket. Of course, private schools are more expensive, so they may not offer some of these advantages, but some of them do. Some of them do. All right. So there's a couple different applications that I want to focus on. The first one is we're going to go past that, is the Common App. Common application. All right, so the Common App is an undergraduate college admission that allows you to apply to 800 schools. The cost, I couldn't really get it nailed down because the higher the cost, you got different things that go along with it. But the college app, the Common App is really, really important. I want to watch a quick video about the Common App. It's really short. It's about 58 seconds long. So it's really short, quick, and to the point. The Common App has become really, really popular recently. All right, so let me show the video really quickly. Okay. Let me see. Let me come over here. All right, let me see. Is this? I can't remember if it came up on. I think it came up on this one here. All right, here we go.
In 1975, we created a simpler way to apply for college. One application, 15 forward-thinking institutions. Today, we connect more than 1 million students each year to nearly 900 colleges and universities around the world. But the path to higher education has changed. While anyone can find it at any time in their life, not everyone does. We're here to clear the way for all students, no matter where they start, to help them reach their goals, to help them reach higher. We support those who need it most by making the application simple, the process logical, and the experience joyful, celebrating and supporting the people, students, counselors, and admissions professionals who forge a better future together. We are Common App.
Common App is really, really important. I don't know if you've ever seen those people that they go on TV, they say, oh, college senior has, gotten into 500 schools. That's the secret. That's how they're getting into all the schools. They're applying for things like the Common App. As you can see, Common App connects you to 800 schools. They're not applying to 400 and 500 schools. Like there's always a story in the news that says college senior is accepted to 400 schools. They're not doing 400 individual applications. They're doing things like this. And the Common App is, it gives you more bang for the buck. If you go into the website, it shows you all 800 colleges that are listed there. If you're interested in attending an HBCU, there's another one that is called the Common Black application. And the Common Black application is an application that can allow you to apply for 53 HBCUs. And I know it used to be $35, but I believe because of the 20th anniversary, the price was $20. So we're gonna look at a quick video that kind of talks a little bit about the Common App. Now, this is from a young lady who I learned about from one of my students. She reviews her college process. So she's pretty interesting, but what I like is that she really keeps it real. All right, let's check it out.
Okay, so welcome back to my channel, or just a regular welcome if you're new here. So in today's video, it's going to be college related, talking about applying to colleges, specifically HBCUs. So I'm going to be talking about a website called the commonblackcollegeapp.com, where you can apply to multiple HBCUs all at once. And if you're interested in learning anything about that, just keep watching. Just to get this video started, I wanted to give a little bit of background about myself and the background about the college application process. So for me, my stats are, I'll have them listed in the description box. I have a 26 ACT, 1190 SAT, 3.75 GPA unweighted. Oh, and I took 3 APs. Yeah, so I think that's the general scope of everything that you should. The first step of the college process is, of course, choosing a college. And the way I narrowed that down, I was certain I wanted to choose an HBCU. So within that spectrum, I've narrowed it down from all these colleges to like 100 and something HBCUs there are now. So from those choices, I narrowed it down to 3 categories: size, location, and major. So the first thing, size, I am graduating with about 300 plus seniors. So I'm used to generally a little bit of a big class size, and I knew I didn't want to be anywhere with a tiny school with like only a few people in my class. That's just not the environment that I learned best in. But I definitely knew I wanted to go to one of the larger schools. So for size, I looked up a web, I think it was niche.com that I was looking at size, and I came up with like Morgan State, Hampton, Tuskegee, Howard, Spelman, North Carolina A&T. Yeah, and at one point I was looking at Xavier in New Orleans. So that was the list that I compiled from the size. And it also checked in with my location list because I knew that most HBCUs are generally in the South, and I did not want to be too deep into the South, seeing as how I've lived here my whole life and wanted to go somewhere else. I also knew I wanted to be in a big city type area. I did not want to be like in the middle of nowhere. I want it to be easy to go out and do things on the weekend. You know, big cities, they usually have a lot of things going on in the weekend versus if you live in like a itty bitty place. Then it gets down to the point of major. What do you want to major in? Well, I want to major in communications, specifically like media and film and all that stuff. So from there, my choices drop down really quickly to Howard, Spelman, Tuskegee, and North Carolina. Those are the 4 things that I narrowed it down to because I looked into their degree programs and I was like, okay, I can do this. I like the criteria. And if you're interested in Howard, I do have a few videos of. I'll link them in my iCard right there. So now that you got off what schools you want to go to, what you're looking for in a college, you move on to the application. So I use the commonblackcollegeapp.com. So if you're unfamiliar with that website, it is very, very similar to the regular Common App, except this one caters to 30 plus HBCUs, and you have to pay an application fee of $35 one time. And with that $35, you apply to all of those HBCUs on the website, every single one of them. So it really checks out to like $1 per application or something like that. So just that one time $30 or $35, and it's super, super, super easy to do. So I'm going to show you guys. So once you log in, you're immediately taken to your dashboard. Now, if you don't have an account, you can always create an account, and they ask you just your general information. And it's going to show you all your updates. Right here on the main screen, you'll see who downloaded it. And then to your right, you can see your progress. And these little check marks can see when your application was submitted, when you did your application payment, is your application active? Did you upload all your outstanding documents and all that stuff? But if you go back over here to the left, you can click on your application and it'll link you down and you click on application. So your application details, it'll show you, your name, your address, but the most important part is your college preference information. It'll give you the opportunity to list 4 colleges, and those will be your colleges that they immediately send your application out into the world to. You get a chance to list your test scores over here and your extracurriculars, just regular stuff. If you want your counselor to upload stuff, it is like I said, it's regular Common App. They would just they make an account, but this time instead of making an account as a student, they make it as like a counselor, I think it says, and they just do it like regular and they can upload your stuff. So then you get to modify your application, which I don't need to modify mine, but then you get your documents page. And like I said, this is for your transcripts and SAT scores. So I uploaded a screenshot of my ACT because they don't ask you to send it directly from ACT, which is, that's cool. You save your $15. Yeah, and then you skip down to status, and it will list all the institutions, and you can see who viewed it, who downloaded it, who accessed what, and you have the option to message them if you would like. Oh, and then here's your invoice page where you pay your application fee. So, which is important because when you pay your application fee, that makes your application active. That way all the colleges can see it. If not, nobody's going to see it. You just fill out an application for nothing. But like I said, it breaks down to like $1 per application because there's 30 plus colleges on here and you pay a one-time $35 fee. And your top 4 colleges will immediately get your application. It'll upload to their server and they can proceed with their application process as however they see fit. But the most important thing about these colleges that although your application is active and it sends it to every HBCU on here. The key is that you have to check in and you have to call them or else they won't download it. Now your top 4 people, they will download it because it's going to show as a priority, but the rest of them, you're going to have to call. Now some HBCUs, some of them on this list, they're a little bit more on top of it and timely with their things, and they'll just go ahead and download it anyways. Anything they get from the Black Common App server, they just automatically download it, whether it was in your top 4 or not. Others, not so much. Like I've spent most of the first semester on the phone just calling like, hey, I applied. Can you download my application? I would really like to continue the application process. Or just whatever kind of script you come up with to call these people. And they'll just, usually they're like, oh yeah, okay, what's your name? And your zip code and stuff like that. And they'll type you in like, okay, we downloaded, we'll email you. And then like a week later, you get your acceptance letter. But in order to do that, I made a list on Google Docs about each college and whether or not they downloaded my application. And it is a HBCU. We're run by people that look like us who aren't usually on top of things, but timely, if you know what I mean. I made a list and it goes in alphabetical order, and I have the date, when I called, and what they told me. This is how I keep up. And sometimes you do get to run around with some of these people, but what's new? Just gotta stay patient. It's pretty easy. It's not as much as a hassle as it sounds. And that's pretty much the gist of the whole website. It's very simple, very easy. Like I said, extremely similar to the regular Common App. And if you look, these are some of your HBCUs that are here. I would have this website linked down below. If you're interested in using it, I would recommend, because why not? It's super easy, $35. My application to Howard was $45 plus another $60 to apply to A&T because they're not on here. So that's like $100 already, but $35 and you get 30 plus school applications. That's a win-win to me. I'm just gonna go ahead and end the video here. I don't want it to get too long, and then in the next video I'll upload like the part 2 about the updates in the colleges and the results, the acceptances, and all that stuff. So if you like this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. If you have any more questions, leave them down below and I will answer them. But until then, stay tuned for part 2.
Alrighty. I like my girl here. I use her a lot in school. Let me make sure it's not gonna keep playing. All right, so am I still in the Zoom? Okay, I must be in the Zoom. So let me go with all right, so I gotta go back here. All right, so these are some of the schools here. Let me go back to present.
Yeah, Anthony, so we have about 7 minutes left before 6 p.m.
Okay, all right, so instead of going back to look at the schools, why don't we just go ahead and jump to our questions? Why don't we jump to our questions? Because I mean, you can always just remember Common Black College App and you can look that up on your own. All right, so do we have any questions today about this presentation, about the process? What you got?
So there was one question in the chat, and it was basically from me, who said, do you think that going to college visits is also an opportunity to request an application fee waiver? But you touched on that, so I think you answered that question.
Yeah, oftentimes, when you take the time to go and visit, you have a higher probability of getting a fee waiver. Most of the time, if colleges see that you're there, they're going to give you something. College fairs are a big one. College fairs, a lot of colleges give fee waivers at college fairs.
I had another thing to add on to that. And I know you touched on, like if somebody, has filled out a farms application, about getting fee waivers. But I also am aware of people who were not eligible for farms, and because they were applying to school, that the application fees were, like $75, $70 for each one of the schools that they were applying to. They requested fee waivers from their school, and the school actually gave them fee waivers. So, yep.
I mean, yeah, that's a big one. Communication.
Yep.
Communication. Colleges can do amazing things if you contact them.
Well, no, this was from the school. The high school gave them
Oh, their high school gave it to them.
Yeah, the
Okay.
high schools, but I mean, you can also reach out to the schools as well, but the high school was able to give them waivers. I
Okay,
see,
yeah, that's definitely something good.
yeah. So here's another question that came in. Since college tours are virtual now, what options do students have to request an application waiver?
Well, what you want to look for is you want to look for a college tour that's being hosted by a member of the college. Like I participated in a college tour that was virtual, and the gentleman who was giving the tour, he was able to give the fee waiver. I think they had to email him, and he was able to give the fee waiver. So even though it's virtual, he still was able to give out fee waivers. You know, we had a gentleman from FAMU come to visit my high school a couple years ago, and he made a little contest. Whoever emailed him by a certain time, he gave out a fee waiver. Just because you're not seeing him in person, you know, if you want to go, you want to look for a college tour that has a representative of that college there, because they can still do it.
Also, I just wanted to make a quick comment about social media. Make sure that during the college application process, not to say that anyone would, of course, have anything on their social media accounts that may bring a negative light to them, but be aware that when schools are looking, at your background and looking at you as a potential student or candidate for admission, they may go and check your social media accounts, your Instagrams, your Snapchats, to see what kind of, student or person you are. So just be aware of that and make sure that you are presenting yourself in the best light, in the most positive, light that you possibly can.
And you got to remember, they will go back. So guess what? Remember how while you were in 7th grade, that digital footprint is still there. So I would advise you to clean your own social media. Go back, because you probably don't even remember what you wrote in 7th grade. Take a look at your social media, go back, delete anything that is kind of dicey. Many of us have matured since 7th grade. Do we have any other questions? What you got?
Has anyone online actually started the applying to college already, or have any of you students submitted any type of application? Do you want to share with us your process or where you are in your process right now?
And I'm gonna come out of screen share so that we can see everyone. Let's see, there we go.
Hi, my name's Kiara. I applied to the College of Notre Dame, actually, and the process was kind of easy. You just filled out what he basically said in the beginning. In the beginning, that's pretty much it.
And that's the College of Notre Dame of Maryland?
Baltimore.
Okay, yeah. Okay, all right, so do me a favor. This is what I want you to do. I'm gonna put my email in because I am an alumni of that school. I got my master's from there. And I know that they offer an alumni scholarship, but I think I have to have your information because I was able to get a student that scholarship a couple years ago. I don't know if they still have it, but I'm gonna put my email in, and if you send me your information, then I'll contact them and see if they still have it. Because you have to be recommended for it by an alumni of the school, which would be me. So I'm gonna put my name, my information into the chat, and send me your contact information, and then we can kind of talk about, just so that I can have some details, because I think I have to put your GPA and a couple other things on the application. So if you send it to me, and I'll check it out and see if they still offer that one. That's what.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. If you know somebody who graduated from the school that you want to go to, that's another resource. Oftentimes the alumni foundations they like to give out money to kids that want to go there. Anybody else? What we got? What we working with? Let me see. I thought I saw a name here. Wesley Boateng, is that you? I see my man Wesley here. Is that you, Wesley? I think that's my Alpha Achiever president on the line. He got to ask a question if he's an Alpha Achiever. I thought I saw his name. What else we got?
There was a question from Stephanie Hunter. She says, any quick nuggets due to time on master's program applications?
Well, the biggest thing about master's program is find out if your school requires the additional tests. Like some master's programs are test optional, where you don't have to take the additional tests. Is this for a student? This for a student, right? So what I would look into is I would look into your undergrad school and see if they have any kind of streamlined programs. A lot of schools, if you graduated from there with your undergrad degree, oftentimes they'll give you a discount on the master's. Some of the schools, depending on your GPA, will even allow you to go and get your master's for free.
Sounds good. Thank you.
All right, you're welcome.
Another question came in. How do you choose your colleges?
All right, I think the first thing that you want to do is make sure that you choose your major first, because nothing worse than having a college that you love that doesn't offer your major. So I would say, pick your major, then pick your college, then you got to get down to the nitty gritty, and that's how am I going to pay for it? Be honest with yourself when you're talking about payment. My parents told me that they had money. They had money for one semester. They dropped me off, and they didn't even have book money for my first semester. It was literally just the one semester of college. But for years, I was told, oh, we got you. Guess what? They didn't have me. But luckily, I was able to kind of do some things to get into the college. So, find a major, how much does a college cost? If your college is far away, you might want to check on a couple things. Does the college dorm, do the college dorms close? And I went to Virginia State University, and I would often have my friend from California with me for every holiday because the dorms closed, and his mom only had 2 tickets, his ticket to school and his ticket home. So you got to look at the distance. You might want to look at the surrounding area of the college. You have some that are college towns where literally the college is the only thing in the town. Do you like an urban environment? Do you like a rural environment? A lot of people love Howard, but when I visited Howard, I didn't like it because I couldn't tell when I was at Howard and when I was on U Street. So I'm like, I wanted a more isolated environment because when you went to the college I went to, which is Virginia State, you kind of felt like the people that you interacted with were going to be students. But, I have other people, they wanted that city environment. I'm not from a big city. So that could be why I didn't want the city environment.
So Anthony, what about the student who is unsure of the major? They're undecided. How do they choose?
That's a difficult one because what you don't want to do is waste time and money. What I would try to do is try to see if you can get at least your majors narrowed down to maybe like 3, 2 to 3, because you don't want to go to school and spend money that you don't have to. So I would try to narrow it down to maybe 3 majors and try to make sure that your college has those 3 majors. Oftentimes, I know a lot of people don't like to hear this, but guess what? If you don't know what your major is, you might want to go to community college first because community college is cheaper, and oftentimes it can allow you to get your prerequisites out of the way. And by the time you get your associate's degree, you might know what you want. You don't have to stay at community college 2 years. You can go for 1 year. Maybe after that first year, you know what you want to do. And, what you might want to do is, reach out to people. If you know that you have 3 things that you're interested in, reach out to those departments on your prospective college campus. They'll email you. Like right now, everybody's emailing and virtual. If you really want to talk to somebody, I'm sure, Google Meets and Zooms, people are doing that all over the place now. Any more questions? What we got? well, my son's asking a question. He wants to know about the band. Check and make sure that your school has a marching band. He loves the marching band. So his school has to have a marching band. Make sure that your schools have what you want. My wife went to a school that did not have a football team. So no football team means winter homecomings. Winter homecomings it's just not jumping off like it is when you got a football game and it's fall. So just check it out. But if homecoming is not your thing and you don't mind going to a winter homecoming, you might want to go to that school. So make sure that the school has stuff that you like. Do they have sports? Do they have intramural sports? Do they have a band? Do they have, how are the dorms? That's a big one. What do the dorms look like? I mean, do the dorms have air conditioning? That's, you got to ask every little question that you can think of before you get there. Any questions? All right, and like I said, my email address is there. I teach in Howard County Public Schools. This is my 23rd year teaching. I might not be able to answer your question, but I can always access someone in the school system that can answer your question. So you can email me. No question is a dumb question. If I'd had somebody to ask questions when I was going to school, maybe I might not owe as much money, but now you all can use your resources and ask those questions. All right, so ladies, I'm gonna turn it back over to you. And thank you very much for allowing me to present to you all today.
All right, thank you, Anthony. You have done a wonderful job. It was a very informative presentation. And I'd like to invite our viewers to our next workshop, which will be November 14th from 1 to 3, and it will be on the scholarships, a workshop on scholarships. So again, thank you, and hope to see you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye. Everybody have a great day.
Thank you for joining us.